So hello everyone and welcome to tonight's Mystic River and North Shore Regional Community Meeting for the Bus Network Redesign Project. My name is Reagan Checchio and I will be serving as the moderator for tonight's meeting. Next slide. I would like to note that all MBTA activities, including public meetings, are free of discrimination. The MBTA complies with all federal and state civil rights requirements preventing discrimination on the basis of race, color, national origin, limited English proficiency, and additional protected characteristics. We welcome the diversity from across our entire service area. If you have any questions or concerns, please visit www.mbta.com/Title6. That's Title VI to reach the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. Next slide. I would also like to remind everyone of the rules for participating in this meeting, as well as let everyone know that the meeting is being recorded. While we wish we were able to do this meeting in person, we're hoping that we have designed an online public meeting that will be interactive and provide an opportunity for us to have a conversation together. Before we can begin that conversation, I do want to review a few technical aspects of the Zoom platform. Next slide. We have ASL interpreters tonight for the meeting. If you would like to view the ASL interpreter at all times, keep your view settings in gallery mode. To pin the interpreter's video, click the ellipses in the top right corner of the video and select Pin Video. You will need to repeat this process each time we switch interpreters. We also have interpreters tonight who are translating the meeting into Spanish and Haitian Creole. If you require these services, please click the interpretation button on your screen, the globe icon, and select which language you wish to hear. I will note we are having some technical difficulties with the Haitian Creole channel right now, and we will make an announcement in the chat when that is available tonight. In addition, we are going to be holding small group discussions later in the meeting. If you would like to be in a Spanish language or Haitian Creole small group discussion, please message a project team member in the chat so we can move you to the appropriate discussion section at that time. At this moment, I will ask all English language speakers to please select English as their chosen language. This will allow you to hear translated non-English comments during the Q&A. Next slide. You can view closed captions by clicking the closed captions feature and selecting from the options shown. Show subtitle will display a caption at the bottom of the screen. View full transcript will display the meeting's audio transcription in a window to the right. Next slide. All attendees are muted during the presentation to prevent excessive background noise. If you are viewing this meeting on a computer, you can toggle the speaker view to see the presentation more prominently. If you are on a smartphone, you can swipe to change views. You may use the chat button to submit a typed question or comment at any point during the meeting. The chat is not open, but if you direct your question to ask a question, we will receive the comment and question. We will be monitoring the chat during the presentation, but ask that you hold all substantive comments and questions for the small group discussions and then later the question and answer session during the meeting. If you have a technical problem, please share your issue in the chat feature at any point in the meeting and we will respond as quickly as possible. I'll note again, the project team staff members are listed with project team next to their names in the participant list. When you submit a question, these will not be visible to attendees once they are submitted, but we will try to get to as many as possible during the Q&A portion of the meeting. During the small group discussions, the chat will be visible to everyone, and we encourage you to keep any comments in the chat respectful to other attendees. If you use inappropriate language, you will be removed from the meeting. So, and now, after all of that, sorry about the length of that, I would like to introduce Wes Edwards from the MBTA, who will begin the main presentation. Wes?
Thank you. Thank you, Reagan. Thank you, everyone. My name is Wes Edwards. I am the Assistant General Manager of Service Development at the MBTA. First, I want to say thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm going to be starting the presentation. And additionally, I also want to say thanks to all the staff here tonight as well. There's a lot of people who've been doing a lot of good work to get us up to this point, and they're continuing to participate in all of these public processes. So thank you to everyone. Before I get started on the presentation tonight, I'm going to actually hand it over to our MBTA Chief Administrative Officer, David Panagore, for some opening remarks. David.
Thank you, Wes. Good evening. My name is David Panagore. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer here at the MBTA, and I'm pleased to be here today to officially launch with you our brand new bus network map as part of our bus network redesign program and kick off our public meeting on the draft map, focusing this evening on the North Shore and communities along the Mystic River. Transit is essential to the region's economy, especially post-pandemic, and MBTA buses serve our most transit-dependent populations. This area has experienced dynamic change, and we need a bus service that changes with it. It's essential that the MBTA's bus network adapts. We're pleased and excited to share with you our new draft network map with you. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to make bold improvements to the MBTA's bus network for the people that depend on it most. Now, we're considering where people want to go, where people live, and where people work to create a better, more equitable service for our riders. But this isn't just a proposal to redesign our bus maps. We're also reinvigorating our entire bus system. We do that by envisioning a number of new interesting routes that get people to where they want to go, to new places of employment, and to new places of housing concentration across our system. We also do it by increasing service. We plan to increase bus service by 25% across the network and by 70% on weekends. We also plan to provide hundreds of thousands of riders with high frequency service. That's a bus stopping at a bus stop every 15 minutes or less throughout the service day. To make these improvements, there is going to be changes and trade-offs. Changes can sometimes be challenging, but I think the benefits are clear. We're building a better and more equitable service for current and future bus riders that better reflects the changing travel needs of the region through a new bus network that is simpler and easier to understand, with higher frequency and better connections. We're excited about this, and we want to hear from everyone here, especially our bus riders. This is our bus network proposal, but it is still a draft. The plan will change meaningfully based on the feedback we receive from riders, and hearing from you will make it better. Thank you. I turn the meeting back over.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for joining us tonight for those opening remarks. So I think, can we go to the next slide, please? There we go. Perfect. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a quick overview of the agenda. So we're going to start with the presentation tonight. We're going to talk about kind of what is the bus network redesign, and then we're going to dive into some of the details about some of the proposals. After that, we're going to go through small breakout sessions with small group discussion, and then we'll also have some Q&A. So I think before we get started on the presentation, we have a poll here to kind of get some of the feedback right away from some of the people attending the meeting. So I'm going to actually ask Reagan, can you launch the poll? Right there it is. Reagan, do you need me to click end poll?
I will do it. I wasn't sure if you were ready.
Got it.
And I'll share the results now too.
Perfect. So it looks like about 44 people answered about, do you ride the bus regularly at least once a month? 73% of people said yes. 27% of people said no. So we clearly have a lot of bus riders here tonight. That's great to hear.
And I did stop sharing, Wes. If you just X out of it.
Perfect. There we go. Got it. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on the presentation. And before I get started, I do want to also introduce in advance my colleague, Melissa DeLay, who's the Senior Director of Service Planning and Scheduling. She's going to be joining me partway through the presentation to kind of dive into some of the specifics. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with kind of an overview of the bus network redesign. Next slide, please. So let me change the view here. We go. All right. So what is bus network redesign? So we're essentially trying to rethink what is our bus network that we're providing today. As many of you know, our bus network hasn't changed very much in the last maybe 50 or so years. But as a lot of you know, jobs have changed across the region. Housing has grown across the region, and the transit system hasn't changed as much. And we realize this is our opportunity that we really need to rethink the transit system and how we're connecting people to where they need to go in the region. So it's essential that our bus network adapts to this change. Next slide. So the redesign is also coordinated with a number of other efforts going on at the MBTA. So to improve bus service, we're focused on sort of three critical, three legs of our plan. So one is our fleet and facilities program. So this is looking at where can we put buses across the region and store them and work on them? And also, how do we improve our fleet and expand our fleet? And sort of what are all the resources that we need to go into that? The other piece is the bus network redesign, which we're talking about tonight. This is really, what does the route look like? What is the frequency of the routes? And how are we getting people where they need to go in a better way than we do today? And the third piece of that is bus priority. And this really means, the bus lanes that you'll see painted on roads, the red paint, it's improving the signals. And really, this is what makes our buses get out of congestion and move more quickly and reliably and get people where they need to go. Next slide. So one of the things that we know is municipal partnerships are key to the success of the bus network redesign. We have about 50 cities and towns that we operate bus service in today. So we know that we need to work closely with them because they own the streets, the sidewalks, and the signals where we operate service. So we need them to implement effective transit priority, the bus lanes that you see on the road and in this picture in Chelsea. We also need to increase service by looking at new layover locations. And these are the places where we actually park the buses at ends of routes so operators can get a break, they can use facilities, and sometimes we just need extra time to make sure if a bus is late, it can get back on schedule. We also need bus shelters and accessible bus stops and making improvements in the sidewalks in those areas. And we also need new and upgraded garages. These are big pieces of land that we need throughout the system, but also we need them in places that make sense to the community, but also make sense for MBTA operation. Next slide. So we spent a lot of time engaging our communities and our riders, and this is kind of give you an idea of what we've been hearing overall as themes. What we've heard makes great bus services 4 things. Buses that go where people want to travel and when they need it. A bus system that is simple to use and understand. A bus system that's fast, frequent, and reliable. And a bus system that serves the people who need it most. Next slide. All right, so what we're trying to do with this proposed map that we're sharing tonight is really, first and foremost, put equity first. And we want to prioritize the needs of those who depend on our buses. And we want to provide frequent and reliable service to really give those communities an alternative mode of transportation that we know is frequent and reliable. 2, we want more frequent service in those busy neighborhoods where we know we can provide the most value. 3, more all-day service. Service that you can expect in the middle of the day, nights, weekends. A lot of times you may not have that reliable service in the weekends or in the middle of the day. You may only think you have in the peak, but we want you to have a service you can rely on all day. 4, we wanted to provide new connections to more places. We know where the bus system goes today, but there's certain places we know people may have to drive or find other ways to get there. But we've thought through, can the buses get them there? Should we make those connections? And that's what we want to talk about some more proposals. And also, a network that's simpler and easier to use. I'm sure you've all had friends and family come to town and they try to take the transit system, and it can be hard until you get to know it. And I think that's one of the things we want to look at is how can we make our system simpler and easier for not just us, but those coming into the Boston area as well. Next slide. So there's a number of benefits with the proposed network that we're going to talk about tonight. So we have what we're calling our high frequency service. It's service that comes every like 15 minutes or better. With the new network, we can 275,000 more residents would be near high frequency service. In addition, we'd have a 25% increase in bus service across the network, and that's what we're proposing tonight. Additionally, the proposal that we have is going to have a 70% increase in weekend service. And this service would also provide 200 more residents in the LMA with frequent service. So I think there's a number of benefits that we've seen with this draft proposed network that we want to share, but we want to make sure to kind of get these broader pictures of what those improvements are. Next slide, please. So when I talk about high frequency service, you can think about what we call our key bus routes. And that's the routes that we commit to having coming every 15 minutes. And on the left, you can see, we call it our old network, but it's actually our current network. This is what we operate today. And on the right, you can see the new network. We're doubling the amount of frequent service. This is the kind of service that you can just walk out your door and you don't really look at a schedule, you just know it's going to come soon. So you walk out your door and you go and wait for the bus because you know it's not going to be that long of a wait. So now we're creating a much bigger network of service you can walk out your door and you can rely on. This means 275,000 more residents will have access to this kind of service across the network. We're going from 15 corridors to 30 corridors. Next slide, please. So we're creating better connections to more places. So about 200,000 more residents are going to have frequent service access to the Longwood Medical area. About 180,000 more residents are going to have new residents are going to have frequent service access to South Boston Waterfront. 50,000 new residents will have frequent service access to Back Bay, and 58,000 new riders will have frequent service access to Kendall Square. Next slide. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Melissa to kind of talk through some of the more technical proposals that we're going to share tonight.
Thanks for that introduction, Wes. So I'm going to be speaking sort of geography by geography. And also these excerpts of maps are taken from our website. So you can see more information and more detail at our website that has very similar content. As I go through this also, I'm going to be talking about some of our new high frequency routes that I'm very excited about. These are the routes that are every 15 minutes or better, 7 days a week for the full span of service from 5 a.m. until 1 a.m. And these, we're using a sort of working name would be the letter T and then the route number as a way to identify those high frequency routes. So if you wonder what I mean when I say T109, for example, that means it's one of our new high frequency routes, but that name might change. That's a working name for now. So in Everett, it's very exciting. We are adding 3 new all-day high-frequency routes. Today, there's maybe 1 or 2 stops near Woodlawn on the 111 that are served with high-frequency service. And in our proposed network, there would be 3 new routes crisscrossing pretty much almost all of Everett with all-day high-frequency routes. So the first, we have a north-south spine that we're calling T109. This is very similar to today's 109, but with better frequency. Today, the 109 might be every 30 or 40 minutes on the unique portions of the route. So that would be every 15 minutes or better. And it would also be extended. So today, it operates from Linden Square down Broadway all the way through Everett. And today it terminates at Sullivan on the Orange Line, but we would extend it farther so that Everett residents could get directly with 1 bus ride into Somerville or Cambridge via Union Square or Harvard Square, and also offering a Green Line and a Red Line connection. So today, almost everyone in Everett has an Orange Line transfer, but this now provides a direct connection to Green Line territory and Red Line territory as well. And there's another minor reroute on the 109 that I'll show you on a later map. The second route that I'd like to call attention to is the T104. Today, the T104 starts in Malden, travels down Ferry Street to Glendale Square in Everett, and goes along the same corridor along Broadway to Sullivan. But instead, since we're using the T109 to be that main Broadway connection, we are proposing that we should bring the T104 across. After serving Everett Square, we would connect to Chelsea and even farther into East Boston and connect to the Blue Line. This is something we'd heard very much from our riders, that there's a lot of travel happening between Chelsea and Everett, but it was often very challenging to travel between the two of those cities. So it's very exciting that we're able to propose an all-day high-frequency connection between Chelsea and Everett on T104. And then I'll show you the Chelsea and East Boston parts in a later slide, so you can see the routes there. And then the last high-frequency connection that we're proposing for Everett is the T110. This is actually identical to today's 110, except more frequent, because today the 110 might be every 30 minutes or more or less. And now we're saying that it would be 15 minutes or better, 7 days a week. So this provides an important connection between Wellington and the Orange Line on one side and the Blue Line at Wonderland Station on the other side. So you can see there's a lot of high frequency service crisscrossing almost all of Everett. Now there's also a few, you can see the high frequency routes are shown with the thick blue lines on the map. There are a few local routes that would operate as well. We have the Route 106, which would continue to serve Main Street. It would be extended into Gateway Center, where the Target and the Home Depot are, to fill in for to replace the Route 97, which does not exist in this network. And then there's also a proposed extended number 90 bus, which connects from Somerville. Today it ends at Assembly, and it would be proposed to extend into Everett and terminate in Chelsea. So there'd be a new connection between Chelsea, Everett, Somerville, and actually it's also proposed to extend into Arlington Center at the other end of the line. So overall, there's a lot more service available in Everett and a lot more high frequency service, the types of routes where you're not married to a schedule card where you can just sort of show up and expect that a bus will be along in a very short, with a very short wait. So about 29,000 residents would get new access to fast and frequent service in Chelsea. And there's a lot of other folks who would benefit with the new connections to Cambridge and Somerville, and even folks transferring to the Orange Line would have better access to Boston because of the improved frequencies that we're proposing. On the next slide, we have the detail for Chelsea. And already Chelsea had a number of frequent services. Today it has the 111. So we would promote that to be the T111, though it's actually the same route, though it would have better frequency because as a category of service, we've improved today's routes like the 111, we call them the key bus routes. And today they're every 20 minutes or better. So this actually means that because we're proposing that the high frequency routes should all be 15 minutes or better. That actually means that on Sunday nights, the 111 would see its frequency improve. But other than that, the 111 would stay the same as it is today. We also have the existing 116, 117 service gets modified in this network to be sort of a combined, what we're calling the T116 route. So that is taking all the frequency that exists between the 116 and 117 and combining them into a single, much more frequent route. Because today on the unique branches of the 116 or the unique branches of the 117, it might only be every 30 or 40 minutes. But now we would have one route, the T116, that would be the combination of both the 116 and 117. And I'll show you that does have some map implications on the Revere portion of the route that I'll show you on a later slide. But it simplifies the Chelsea and East Boston portions and makes a much simpler and easier to use route. There's a new high frequency route that we would be adding in Chelsea. to complement these routes, we wanted to sort of fill in a missing link. So as I mentioned, we have the T104 that would be starting in Malden, extending through Everett. It would continue into Bellingham Square and continue past Eastern Avenue Station and over into East Boston. And let me put, there's one sort of placeholder here. In parallel with our bus network redesign process, Mass DOT is undergoing a process to look at a potential extension to the Sl3 route. So there's one of the options that they're looking at is an extension of the Sl3 that would take it to Malden, in which case that would actually sort of combine what we're showing as the T104 with the Sl3. So you can see the dark gray line where the Sl3 is today might get combined with that 104, depending on the results of their Sl3 extension process, which is moving in parallel with this process. Now, in addition to those other new high frequency routes, we also have the Sl3 bus that operates. There's a proposal to modify sort of the South Boston portion of that route to make a faster ride for anyone who's traveling to Chelsea. And actually, it's also true for anyone traveling to East Boston, that we're trying to make it so that the route would omit the stop at Silver Line Way and travel directly to World Trade Center as the first inbound stop, which would make the trip a little bit faster. It does require some construction at the portal, but this is a possible route change that becomes enabled with our new hybrid buses that we are planning to purchase for the line to replace the existing dual mode articulated buses that need to transition onto the overhead catenary system. So that's a way to get a little bit faster service, both coming into Boston and again, heading back out toward East Boston and Chelsea on the Sl3. And actually we're proposing that for the Sl1 as well. There are some other non-high frequency routes here that I do want to flag. The number 90 bus that I had mentioned on the Everett side would terminate right at Chelsea Station. So that would be a way to get directly from Chelsea to Everett and into Somerville over by Assembly Row and Davis Square and over to Arlington. And then also the 112 would be modified. Today, the 112 connects from Wood Island to Wellington Station, and it's serving both Admiral's Hill and the Quigley Hospital area where like the Soldiers Home is located. We're proposing to sort of, because we're creating the new T104 high frequency service, we've sort of separated the longer service from the circulator service. So the 112 would continue to provide connections to 4 different high frequency routes. It would connect to the T111, to the T104, to the T116, and to the Sl3, but it would not provide a direct connection to the blue line or orange line. It would connect to 4 different all-day high frequency services. On the next slide, we can talk about the East Boston and Winthrop portions of the route. So as I mentioned already, the 116, 117 are proposed to be combined into a single high frequency route, the T116. And then, as I mentioned before, we have the T104, which we're showing a connection to Wood Island. But again, that was a placeholder depending on the results of the MassDOT Silver Line extension study that I mentioned before. It's possible that that might instead be a connection at Airport Station if that were to be replaced as a Silver Line 3 extension. In terms of the local services, we have a proposal to, you can see the Route 120 becomes extended. So this is actually really interesting. One of the things that we've been trying to do with the route is to make the routes just a little bit longer so that fewer people would have to transfer from a bus to another bus, or in some cases, some of these trips would be a bus to a subway to another bus. So you can see that today, the 120 serves Jeffreys Point as we're proposing it would in the new network, and it continues to go up and down Bennington Street and serving the Orient Heights neighborhood. But what we're proposing to do is, as part of kind of coordinating with the future Suffolk Downs development, to sort of punch through and connect to Tomasello Way in Revere. And what that means is that you'd be able to get from East Boston to say job opportunities or shopping opportunities at the Target and the Stop and Shop that are located near Beachmont Station. And then the bus would continue and it would actually keep going to the Beachmont neighborhood that is currently part of the 119 bus, but that would be part of the 120 bus as well. And it would be combined with the I always get this mixed up. So let me check my notes to make sure I say the correct thing. But the 120 would be part of the 712 bus, which would terminate at Winthrop Beach, sort of on the eastern side of Winthrop. So that means you could get also from Winthrop directly to those retail shopping opportunities that I mentioned before over by the Target and the Stop and Shop, or you could get directly between Winthrop and East Boston. So we're trying to stitch together these neighborhoods that have really been separated by the way that our previous bus network had been designed, so that we can hopefully provide more opportunities for people to use transit as a competitive option. There's also, in that same vein, there's a number 119 bus that we are proposing. This would replace the 713 on sort of the southern and western side of Winthrop. And that would then connect, instead of terminating at Orient Heights like the 713 does today, it would go up to Beachmont Station and continue as the 119, which goes out to Linden Square and Northgate Shopping Center. So it provides direct connectivity from Winthrop to locations in Revere, which could, be useful for job opportunities or retail opportunities and other types of travel. I do want to flag that this does discontinue service to Point Shirley over by Deer Island. Today, that's served by something like every third trip on the 712 or 713. We've been trying to make much more simple schedules where you have a bus that does one thing all the time. But one of the trade-offs of doing that is that we had to look at some of these sort of lower demand areas where you can see Point Shirley. It's a more narrow peninsula. So in some cases, the catchment area is one house deep on each side, or there might not be any houses on some sides on some of the more narrow parts. So I do want to flag that, and folks are welcome to provide commentary on what they think of that. But overall, this still provides 20% more service in the East Boston and Winthrop area, and provides much better access to destinations in Revere and Chelsea and South Boston and downtown. Next slide, please. Malden is another area where we're very excited to talk about the added high frequency service. Today, there are 0 high frequency bus routes in Malden, and now we're proposing 3 different high frequency services. And there's actually one sort of honorary, almost high frequency that I'll also talk about. So to the western side, you can see that we're proposing the T96. That's pretty much taking the top half of today's 101 bus and mashing it up with the 96 bus that starts in Medford Square, and promoting them to be all day high frequency with some other minor reroutes in the Medford and Cambridge portions of those lines. But this would be a great sort of cross-town connection that connects Malden and the Orange Line together with the new Green Line extension. There would be a connection at the Medford Tough Station, and also connecting to Davis Square and Porter Square on the Red Line in Somerville and on the Cambridge border. The second route would be the T104 that I already spoke about, that connects Malden over to Everett and would connect to Chelsea and the Blue Line in East Boston. And then the third one is the T109, which I actually spoke about in the Everett slide as well. But I do want to flag that the route is proposed to change just a little bit. You can see between Linden Square and Broadway, we are showing that the route would travel via Salem Street and Beach Street. This is a little bit of a departure from the existing route where it's traveling via Eastern Avenue, just a little bit farther south. And you can see Eastern Ave is adjacent to the Holy Cross Cemetery there. So we think that Salem Street and Beach Street would pick up a little more travel demand and get more connectivity for folks who are heading to either Sullivan on the Orange Line, or also, again, this is the route that was getting extended to the Green Line in Union Square and to the Red Line at Harvard Square with all-day high-frequency service. There are also some other changes proposed here. I do want to flag that the 99 bus, you can see it starts at Woodland Road and continues down Highland Ave to Malden Center. Today, it goes down Main Street and ends up on the Everett side of the Malden River. Instead, we're proposing that this would go down Highland Ave and Middlesex Ave, sort of on the Medford side of the Malden River. So that is a change from today's 99 that I want to call your attention to. The Route 100 has some route extensions at the Medford end of the line to take it a little bit farther out to Winthrop Street and Governor's Ave to replace parts of the 710 and the modified 134 buses. Let's see. We also have the 105 route, which today connects from the sort of cross street area. And today it operates to down Main Street in Everett. We would instead be having that terminate at Malden Center. But at the outer end of the line, we're also sort of combining this with the today's Route 430 bus. So the 105 would actually continue at the outer end out to Saugus Center and Square One Mall. So this provides more direct opportunities for employment or retail opportunities as well, though it does mean that it's omitting the Main Street portion of the route, which would still be served by the 106. Let's see, there is the 106, the Lebanon Street Loop service that travels down Salem Street with the 108. And one of the interesting things is these two routes are proposed to be medium frequency. So that means approximately 30-minute service, 7 days a week. And one of the things that we're sometimes able to do when we have two 30-minute routes, 7 days a week, is to try to coordinate their schedules to create a high frequency corridor. Now, we're not totally sure because we haven't built the final schedules if we'd be able to provide two-way coordination, if we'd be able to make it, say, every 15 minutes or better in both directions on Salem Street. So this is one that we didn't identify as being a high frequency corridor because we haven't been able to build those schedules yet. But this one is one that I want to kind of put an asterisk by and say that as we get closer toward implementation, this is a place where we want to see if we'd be able to provide all-day coordination in both directions to make that a high frequency corridor on Salem Street, which definitely could support that. Or one of the things that we might be able to do if we can't do both directions would be to favor sort of inbound in the morning to get that coordinated every 15 minutes or better service, and then outbound for the later half of the day to sort of get folks returning home from, say, the Orange Line or other travel. So kind of put an asterisk or a placeholder where you have those two overlapping medium frequency routes, the 106 and the 108 on Salem Street in Malden. We also have some other changes to the 108. Today it terminates in Linden Square, but we're proposing that would terminate at the Kennedy Drive housing to sort of fill in, to replace the 411 and 430 route structure with kind of a more consistent service pattern, one trip, one route all the time. And there's also some minor changes to the 426 all the way at the edge of the, over by Linden Square, where that route would be changed to consistently operate 7 days a week to Wonderland. Today, certain trips continue to downtown Boston, and other trips terminate at Wonderland. And if you're going to downtown Boston, it would be for an express fare, whereas if you're going to the Blue Line, it's a local bus fare. This would make it consistently go to Wonderland, so it would always be for a bus fare. So that is potentially a lower fare, though it does require a transfer to the Blue Line, but we think that those travel times are fairly reliable and competitive. Again, overall, there's more service here overall that we're very excited can result in better frequencies and better access to major destinations. You can see there's 27,000 Malden residents who have faster frequent service to Everett. Next slide, please. Now, Revere, today, the only high frequency bus service in Revere is the sort of overlap of where you see the kind of portion of the 116 from Broadway at about Park Avenue, where the 116 and 117 overlap. But because we're sort of combining the 116 and 117 into an all-day high frequency T116, we're going to then improve the frequency so that even on Broadway north of Park Avenue or across on Revere Street over to Wonderland, that would also have high frequency service all day. And the unique portion that's only served by the 117 between sort of Broadway and over to Wonderland happens to overlap with the 110 bus, which, as you may recall, is also proposed to be improved to all-day high-frequency service. So everyone who formerly would travel on either the 116 or the 117 would still be served directly, and they would be served by high-frequency bus service, even in places that on Revere Street or on Beach Street that previously had medium kind of every 30 or every 40-minute bus service. And then you'll also note that there's a corridor. There are some parts of the network where we have two overlapping medium frequency routes. And if they have a common terminal, like the 455 and the 442 do here, coming from Wonderland and heading north towards Central Square Lynn, you can see that we're showing those with that thick blue line. And we're still working on some sort of nomenclature to help identify that. But those two routes, we think we'd be able to keep coordinated so that they would function like every 15 minutes or better service. It's just that some of them would continue to Salem and some of them would continue to Marblehead. But where they overlap between Wonderland and Central Square Lynn, it would be high frequency service. We also have some capital plans that are not really plans at this stage, but we're exploring some concepts to rework the stop at Point of Pines, sort of at the northern peninsula there, just before you get to Lynn, on the Lynnway, to make that travel more direct so that the buses don't have to do a fairly circuitous move to serve where the existing bus stop is in the Point of Pines area, but while still, we hope, being able to maintain connectivity for the folks who live there. We have some other changes in Revere as well. As I mentioned, the 119 bus, we'd spoken about that one. That's the one that now gets extended to Winthrop. In the Revere portion of the route, we've sort of straightened out the route just a little bit to stay on Cushman Avenue rather than winding through Coolidge Streets and Constitution Avenue and Proctor Avenue to try to make a more legible and easy to understand route. So let us know your thoughts on that. And let's see. And again, we spoke about the 120 bus, how we would be hoping to kind of punch through the future Suffolk Downs development so that we'd be able to connect Winthrop to Revere and over to East Boston by potential new, say, sort of a transit-only connection right there next to Suffolk Downs Station. We have some other changes. The 426, you can see serves parts of Revere. Again, that's proposed to become a local bus route that would serve Wonderland Station consistently. Same is also true for the Route 450. You can see that's coming down Route 107 from Lynn and connects over to Wonderland. Today, it continues down via McClellan Highway and is traveling through East Boston. So that route would become a local bus route only, would no longer have an express fare, and would provide 7-day connections to Wonderland instead of having a different service pattern on weekdays versus on weekend days. Next slide, please. For Lynn and Nahant, very excited that there are 2 new high frequency corridors being shown. Now, again, these aren't routes, but corridors. So there's the combined 455 and 442 corridor from Central Square Lynn down to Wonderland, where you have the overlap of the unique portions of the 455 and the 442. And there's actually a second corridor that extends sort of from Central Square to Lynn Common and out toward West Lynn, where you have the overlap of the 131 bus and the 426 bus. So that provides an opportunity, say, for folks who might be looking to get from other parts of Lynn into Central Square. One of the things we saw when we were looking at the travel demand data is that the most common destination for trips made by people in Lynn was to other places in Lynn. So having more high frequency connections within Lynn, we see a lot of value to that. I'm not sure if I mentioned this. The 131 is a new crosstown route that we're proposing to extend across to the Orange Line. So that also would serve Saugus Center and the Square One Mall. And this is unusual. Almost everything that serves Lynn today is very much oriented toward either the North Shore or to the Blue Line. So having a medium frequency every 30 minutes or better service 7 days a week that would connect to the Orange Line is a great way to knit together the North Shore with some of the other northern suburbs and into Orange Line territory as well. Now I will speak a little bit more about the 442. There's some changes primarily in the Swampscott end, so I'm going to show that on a later slide. But the 455, I do want to flag, has a route change. So today the 455 is traveling from Central Square Lynn through Lynn Common and down Route 107. And instead we're proposing that it would go down the Lynnway. So I just wanted to be clear on that. We also have a minor route change on the 439 bus that extends out to Nahant. It's very small and it's only in the Lynn portion of the route to try to have the bus do the same thing in both directions for better legibility, rather than kind of doing one thing in one direction and a different thing in the other direction. Some changes, 435 and 436 would omit Neptune Towers, but the 436 would get new Sunday service. So in general, we're trying to make more consistent, routes that do the same thing all the time, and also that don't drop off frequency quite as dramatically. Today we have many cases of routes that stop running on Sundays, or if they do run, they might be very low frequency. So we're trying to make more consistent service. So there's actually a lot more weekend service in our proposed service pattern. Let's see, next slide, please. So let me talk fast because I know we're running a little short on time, but kind of going from, let's go from west to east. You can see the 132 bus is the main north-south connection that goes through Stoneham. That would be slated to get new Sunday service. And there's a new crosstown service in Stoneham. One thing we've long heard from Stoneham is a request to get east-west service instead of just north-south service. So there is a new route, the 133, that actually at the outer end, if you continue farther west, it goes through Woburn and goes to Anderson Woburn station with commuter rail, and also that's where the Downeaster and Logan Express are located. And that route then continues across to Melrose and down into Malden. In the Wakefield portion of this map, you can see that we're proposing to do two different things. So one is we're continuing the combination of the 136, 137 that has been in place for most of the past 2 years during COVID times, but we're also proposing a route change. So if you can see the map, we're proposing to keep the 137 on Pleasant Street and Lowell Street, so traveling north side of the lake, so that we have more consistent two-way service. But then we would still sort of branch on the sort of west of the lake to get over to Reading Depot and serve kind of both sides of that loop. So it's sort of shrinking the size of that loop just a little bit to provide more consistent service. Though this does mean that there are some parts of the existing route that would be a half mile or more away from service. Let's see, 105, you can see in Saugus, we have two new routes that I'd mentioned from the Malden discussion. So you have the both the 105 that's starting at Saugus Center and going over to Square One Mall, and this ends up over at Malden Center and is serving over by like Cross Street and other parts of Malden. And then we also have the 131 bus that I'd mentioned that goes to Lynn on one side and over to Oak Grove on the Orange Line on the other side. So this is that, again, I was mentioning there's a crosstown connection so that not everyone from Lynn is forced to go, into Boston to connect over to the Orange Line, but you could take a direct bus connection. So we hope that makes suburb to suburb travel a lot easier to have this every 30-minute, 7-day-a-week bus service available to folks. And then also one thing about the 429 that I'd like to flag, we're proposing to extend this route pending getting permissions from property owners and all that. But we see a lot of trip making happening out to the Market Street location in Lynnfield. And this would be a great opportunity to connect folks in Lynn and Saugus to employment opportunities and potentially some retail opportunities as well. So that is kind of one of the few new, completely new territory route suggestions that we have in this plan. And one more slide. Last, we have the North Shore. So you can see all the way on the west, there's the Market Street route that I had just mentioned with the 429 extension from Saugus up to Lynnfield to the Market Street. And then we also have 435 and 436, which are proposed to continue serving the malls in Danvers. And we have some temporary changes that we had put in during COVID over the last 2 years that we're proposing to make permanent. So this continues to have the 435 extended to Salem from the malls area, and also omits the Danvers Square portion of service that formerly operated. So I do want to flag that as something for folks to be aware of. The 450 we mentioned would operate to Wonderland consistently, and also the frequency does improve to medium frequency. So that's most noticeable on Sundays on the Highland Ave stretch there with the 450 bus. 455, there's a small reroute to make the route a little bit more direct, just south of Salem Depot, or kind of the downtown area in Salem, we're proposing that it would no longer travel directly to Shetland Park, but would take a slightly more direct route that's still within walking distance. So folks would still be able to get to Shetland Park, but to make the travel more direct for most riders who are traveling through. And then, as I mentioned, we have the other Route 455 changes in the Lynn portion. 451, there's a proposal to terminate the Route 451 at Beverly Depot, which is not served by MBTA bus service today. And this would replace the connection to Salem Depot in this proposal. And lastly, the 442 in Marblehead has a number of changes. This is actually getting combined together with the 441, which each of them is generally low frequency, and the 442 takes a more coastal route through Swampscott, where the 441 takes a more inland route over by Vinnon Square and Paradise Road. We're proposing that we would put all the resources of the two routes together onto the 442 to operate one route consistently, though this does mean that some folks on Paradise Road in particular would have a longer walk to get to either the 442 or to the 455 or other transit service. And then also there is a small route change at the turnaround in the sort of old town portion of Marblehead, where there's some very narrow streets, very tight turns that we're proposing to simplify the route, but it's still within walking distance for folks who may be traveling to the Old Town Marblehead area. So with that, I will turn it back over to Wes Edwards.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you for that presentation. So I'm just going to go through the last few slides, and we're going to get to the breakout groups. And I'll go through these a little bit more quickly just to make sure we have time for breakout groups. So kind of looking at the timeline for all of these changes. So on this slide, you can see the timeline. We're kind of right in the middle where it says outreach phase 2. So we've already been engaging the public, and right now we're kind of getting input on the specific proposals that we've just outlined for you joining us today. So when we collect that feedback, we're going to then take that back and refine the network and finalize it this fall, and then we'll come out with a draft. We're going to come out with a proposed map, a final map, and then we're going to start doing outreach to our riders to make sure they understand what the new map would look like, what the routes are and the frequencies, and then we can look at implementation sometime in mid-2023. And when we start implementing, it's going to, because it's a pretty expansive change across the bus network, it'll take about 5 years. So we can see the earliest tranche of changes starting in mid-2023, and then we'll continue to make changes with the idea that we could implement all of this within 5 years. Next slide, please. Kind of give you an example of the engagement we've done. So we've had a lot of surveys that we've given to try and get feedback. We've done focus groups with riders. We've had a number of meetings with what we have external task force that's municipal staff, advocates, community groups, elected business groups, and others. We have met with over 50 cities and towns and agencies who are all the roadway owners. We've done a number of street teams, having people out there handing out materials, meeting riders at their bus stops. We've done our own internal engagement with operators, with our training school, and others internally at the MBTA to try and understand what does and doesn't work for some of these changes. We've also met with a number of our state elected officials to walk through these changes and proposals. We continue to meet with them. And we've been doing a lot of advertising in multiple languages across the system to try and get the word out about and get feedback on this project. Next slide, please. So just kind of give you an idea of some of the upcoming additional outreach we have. We have a number of community meetings coming up. We have station open houses. This is staff going to the station and meeting people that they're going to or coming from where they're going. And then we'll have street teams, folks handing out materials at a number of our bus stops, again, trying to meet the riders where they are. And next slide. All right, and how do you provide feedback? So you can obviously attend meetings like this today, but you can also visit our website. You can attend an event. We have a number of events listed on our website as well, just like this today. You can email us, betterbusproject@mbta.com. You can mail us, or you can call us. If you want to stay informed on this project and us moving forward, I encourage you all to go to the website, mbta.com/BNRD. There you can find all kinds of information on this project. You can find these maps and all the materials we shared today. You can find actually a trip planner that you can type where you want to go. And just like today, it'll actually show you with a future network how you would get there. So lots of great materials on our website. I highly encourage you, if you want to seek out more information, please go there. Lastly, just for public inquiries on MBTA outreach, please contact publicengagement@mbta.com. I think that was the last slide. Is there one more slide? All right, small groups.
This is me. So thank you, Wes. So I want to get you all into your small groups as quickly as possible. I will note that there is no difference in content between the rooms, and you're going to be randomly assigned. As a reminder, if you preferred a non-English breakout room and did not indicate that preference earlier, please message us in the chat. Next slide. I will let the facilitators of the breakout rooms go through the key questions for discussion. And I think Shana was preparing the breakout rooms now. Next slide. So you're automatically going to be put in your breakout rooms, and each room will have a group leader who will facilitate the discussion. And instead of 7:15, because that only gives us 10 minutes, we're going to go, I think, until 7:20 and then reconvene back here, and you'll be moved. So you'll be moved automatically into your breakout room, and then you will be moved back into the main room also automatically. Shana, can you pause the recording? Wes, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Reagan. So I think we're going to start the Q&A, but I just actually, before we do, because I know we still might lose some people, I just want to say thank you to all the public who joined us tonight. I know this probably didn't seem like enough time, but we did cover a lot, but we also have other ways to reach out. Please go to our website, mbta.com/BNRD. Additionally, thanks to the staff here, you realize there's a lot of staff to try to make these happen. And there's a lot of other meetings that we're doing as well. So thank you to the staff who are kind of trying to support reaching out to all the different communities. And we have a lot more work to do, a lot more engagement. But with that, I'm gonna actually hand it over to Reagan. We can start the Q&A portion.
Sure. And Wes, are you okay if we go a little bit beyond 7:30, I think, since
Yeah, I
we're
think that's
running
okay.
a little late? Okay, great. So I'm going to turn to Q&A. I'm going to walk through the instructions on these slides, but I will ask everyone hold comments and questions until I finish, because we're going to first ask elected officials to speak and then open the meeting up for other comments and questions. So next slide. If you would like to share a comment or ask a question, you can use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. You can submit those questions to ask a question. We're going to try to alternate between reading questions and comments that you submit. I'm hoping that the comments, I know we got some questions that were submitted earlier. Hopefully they were answered during the breakout sessions. If not, feel free to resubmit them. Please be brief so we can hear from as many people as possible. People who wish to share a question or comment verbally can press the raise hand button. And for those of you who are joining by the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing star and then the number 9. That's *9. All attendees who speak Spanish or Haitian Creole, please raise your hand to provide your comments and questions verbally for the interpreters to hear and repeat your comments. So with that, I'm actually gonna, can you go forward one more slide, Terry? Because I do want everyone to have the links as we do this. So I will first ask if any elected officials or their staff members would like to speak. Please raise your hands now and we will recognize you. Okay, so I see Representative Karen's. I'm going to unmute you now and you should be able to speak.
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity to weigh in. I represent Danvers, West Peabody, Middleton, soon half of Topsfield and half of Wenham. And just want to underscore the appeal that I've been making for a couple of years now. We are in a public transportation desert in my area. You've announced your plan that I applaud the imagination that went into it. glad that there'll be more service. Appreciate that you want to partner with municipalities, and I'm just please underscoring the need for you to partner with my town, my community, to address our inadequate routes and not a single stop in our downtown area because you took it out a year ago. We really need it back. Thank you.
Helps if I unmute myself. I see Gardner Trask. I'm going to unmute you. You should be able to speak.
Hello, my name is Gardner Trask. I am the senior select board member in the town of Danvers. I want to echo what Representative Kern said. Bus Route 465 served downtown Danvers. The only existing bus route in Danvers now is 435, 4036, which is on the outskirts at one of our malls. It makes it a consumer, it's not a commuter service, it's a consumer service. There is no way to get to Boston. If you work in Boston, I've used your trip planner. There's no way to get there without walking 3 or more miles to the closest bus station in Beverly. I advocate highly for my constituency to get 465 back online. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Wes, I don't know if you want to follow up on either of the comments of Representative Karen's or a select person Trask.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I appreciate those comments. We're definitely recording them, and it's something we can look at.
Great. So I'm going to turn to some of, I will ask any members of the public who have want to make verbal comments, please raise your hands at this time. I will also start looking at some of the, we've gotten some written comments. I will note that any comments that you put in the chat, we are recording and we are keeping. So those will be in the record. There was a question, and I think I know the answer, which is a question about whether or not the public has suggestions about routes that are not currently on the map, if they can include them. And I believe the best way to do that, Wes, tell me if I'm wrong, is through that online feedback form, the mbta.com BNRD feedback. Is that correct?
Yep, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Just going to the website and doing it there.
And I do have another question that I'm going to turn to Melissa. I'm going to try to put her on spotlight. Melissa, you made some references to the SL routes earlier in the presentation and like the SL3 specifically, and some folks had some questions about what exactly that refers to.
Oh, sorry. So we have the SL1 and the SL3. So the SL1 travels from the Logan Airport terminals into South Station via the Ted Williams Tunnel, and then in a transit way. And the SL3 serves Chelsea Station through the busway and connects to Airport Station, and then continues to South Station via the South Boston waterfront. So both of those routes, we have some proposals to make them a little faster and a little more direct in the South Boston waterfront portion of the route, so that folks going to Chelsea, to or from Chelsea, or to or from the airport would have a faster ride. But SL stands for Silver Line.
I was just about to do the Silver Line bit at the end. Thank you, Melissa. So it does look like there's a member of the public with their hand raised. Lisa, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hi, I made my comment in the breakout room, but I have a bigger audience here and people from the MBTA are listening. So I just want to, I'd like to speak. I'm a lifelong resident of Winthrop. I have commuted into Boston my entire life, as does most of my family. I currently work in the Seaport. I'm very familiar with the Silver Line. I've been taking the ferry in Winthrop when it's been operating, because otherwise, a 17-minute drive to my office in the Seaport is about an hour trip on the T if I take the bus from my house to Orion Heights, the Blue Line to the airport, and then a bus, the Silver Line, to the Seaport. I think trying to get the Winthrop, I know Senator Edwards' office has been supporting the Winthrop Ferry and has included funding in the state budget for the T to incorporate the ferry as part of its transit program. The new bus routes eliminate service to Point Shirley, and that includes the Winthrop Public Landing. In order for the Winthrop Ferry to ever be a truly viable commuting option to the seaport and downtown Boston, it's going to need bus service. It will never work in sustainable financially numbers if there isn't bus service there. And I really hope that the T will re-examine the idea of cutting off service to Point Shirley. Maybe it's something that the 119 and the 120 can go down to Point Shirley and by way of the public landing during commuting hours. And maybe during the day there is, during the rest of the day, it really isn't a high demand area. But I really think that the T really, if the T is going to support the Winthrop Ferry and incorporate it, we need bus service to continue to the ferry, and it needs to be coordinated with the commuting schedule of the ferry. That's all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate that. I will note that I'm going to do a time check. I know we are past the end time of the meeting. I think we're going to maybe take 2 more questions. I have a question in the written comments and maybe 1 more person with their hands raised, because I know our captioner has a hard stop at 7:40. So what I will say that for anyone whose comments and questions we did not get to tonight, I would encourage you to submit those comments on the online form that I mentioned earlier, or come to any of one of our other events and meetings as well. There are a lot of opportunities to provide feedback, and we are anxious to hear your feedback. This is Melissa, a question from Melissa, I believe, from William, who sent in this question. It was about route redundancy, about the proposed map reduces route redundancy, but does in some cases increase route lengths. So how do you keep buses on schedule when there is traffic in a particular area if there are less buses? He's saying that on Main Street in Malden, which currently has 4 buses, is reduced to 1. So how does it maintain service in that case?
Thanks for that. So we are looking at reducing redundancy. So one of the examples we had coming into Malden Center on Salem Street today has 4 different routes coming in, and in the future it would only have 2 different routes. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has less service, because one of the things that we're also trying to do is to create more frequent service. So it might be that today Salem Street has the 106, 108, 411, and 430, but the 430 is very, very infrequent, and the 411 is also very infrequent, and many days might end early or might not operate on weekends. So we might have 4 kind of not so good buses, but what we want to do is make more good buses. So even though there's fewer routes, we want those routes to be better routes. And then I know we're also looking at making longer routes in general. Massachusetts, or the MBTA in general, has fairly short routes compared to many of our peer agencies that operate bus service. And by operating longer routes, we're able to get more people where they want to go, with the possibility of having fewer transfers required, because many short routes often are requiring multiple transfers, either bus to bus or bus to rail, in order for folks to complete their trip. So hopefully we'd be able to have folks get there in a reliable fashion. And the one trade-off is that longer routes can be more difficult to manage, which is why we're very interested in exploring opportunities to speed the buses up, whether it's transit priority or other different treatments, so that we can have longer routes also operate more reliably. So there's lots of different things that we're trying to do with this bus network redesign in concert with priority treatment.
Thank you, Melissa. So Patricia, I think you are going to be our last question of the evening, and then I will turn it back over to Wes. So you should be able to speak now, Patricia.
Okay, thank you for hearing me. I did speak in the breakout group, but I did want to emphasize the fact that I'm hearing a lot about high frequency and medium frequency bus routes. I live in Danvers and I have a no frequency bus route, and I'm going along with Ms. Kearns and Mr. Trask to implore you to reinstate and restore the bus stop in Danvers Square. And I think it can be done easily. I will send an email because I have not done that previously, but please see that we need the employment opportunities and the retail opportunities restored via the stop in Danvers Square. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. And yes, please send us your comments. That would be terrific. Wes, I'm going to turn it back over to you now.
Great. And I think I'm just going to kind of do the thanks and the wrap up for everyone. So again, thank you all for everyone who came out tonight, participated in the conversations. I think it's been great that we've actually left this slide up. It is kind of the different ways that we can stay in touch about Bus Network Redesign. And actually provide other feedback to your website, attending another event, email, please write us, please call, whatever we can. I know there were some comments about, have we talked with different groups? If there's groups that you want us to talk to, please also send those to us as well. I think we're trying to make sure that people aren't left off the table as far as hearing about this, but we're trying hard to spread the word. So thank you again, everyone. We will be continuing to collect comments, and then we'll be refining the map from there. So this is just the proposal. All your comments are being recorded, and we'll actually be looking through them to try and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then trying to come up with another proposal to bring back to the public to think about the future. So thank you, everyone. I hope you all a good night. Thank you again for participating. Thank you to staff for participating, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.